Hi, my name is Haitham Shaddad, and in this video, I will introduce the Azure Static Web Apps, which is a new service and still in preview from Azure. Before I proceed, let's have a quick history of how we used to deploy static web apps in Azure. So before the static web apps, we used to deploy the static content like single page app with Angular, React, or anything on a virtual machine or app service or anywhere in Azure. But later they had this feature called static web apps on Azure Blob Storage, where basically it provision a new container with a specific name called $web, and then you can access your files, which is basically HTML and JavaScript, from a specific URL from your Azure Blob Storage. And you can have your APIs hosted on Azure Functions. And you can map all of this to a custom domain. It was a workaround. It was working. But now with Azure Static Web Apps, it's literally a click of a button, and then you have all of this under one service. So let's say the features in the Azure Static Web Apps is hosting static content and APIs at the same time. So basically, you will have something like an app service, but it has two places, one for your static content, whatever in which service it is created, um, Angular, React, or anything, or just a bunch of static files. And the APIs are hosted with or developed with Azure Functions. It has GitHub integration as a first citizen. So with all the other services, you basically create a service like an Azure function or an app service, and then you deploy the code either manually or setting up continuous integration, continuous deployment, or whatever the way you deploy it. But with actually with Azure Static Web Apps, you can only do it with GitHub integration so far. It has a globally distributed presence. You can have your content distributed all over the globe, and it also has a very good feature to offer free SSL certificates for your custom domains. It has auto renewal and all. You can map your custom domains by default. It has like a random URL, just like the Azure Static Web, Azure websites, but this one is more I guess more hard to share or rate. So you'll have to map your custom domains. It also has custom authentication. It has integration with the usual authentication providers offered by Microsoft, like Azure Active Directory, Facebook, Google, and all. It also has a very good feature for staging environment. Unlike the deployment slots for Azure Static Web Apps, for Azure services, for app services, this one has something to let you test your changes. So, for example, if you have the master branch in your GitHub repository and someone created some or provisioned some changes on another branch, for a feature branch, for example, and they want to create a PR. So once you create a PR, this will create a staging environment where you can see how these changes will reflect. We will go into details when we come into the staging environment, how we preview our changes and all of that. Now, how does this work? So in the static web apps, you have two parts. The code, which is hosted on GitHub. I assume that maybe in future we'll have integration with DevOps or other source controls, but so far it's only GitHub. And then the service on Azure. So in Azure, we have the static web app, the static content itself, and then we have our APIs. As of now, the static apps only support JavaScript functions. I tried to create a .NET function, it didn't work. There's some sort of issue that happens when I try to do that, but maybe in future this will change. And then when you push some code, so when you start to create a service, as I will say in the next video, it asks you where is the GitHub repository that will be used to deploy your function. Whenever you do any pushing to any code push to a specific branch, let's say the master branch, there is a GitHub action that basically compiles the code, deploy this code into the static content. When you create the static web app, there is two or three properties that you have to set, as we'll see in the next video, which basically tells static apps where is the static content is hosted and where is the Azure function or the APIs are hosted inside your code repository on GitHub. So that's it about like just an introduction for the Azure Static Web Apps. And in the next video, we will start step by step creating our GitHub repository and the Azure Static Web Apps, and we will build something fancy.